Yeah, please do come and take your seat, Mr. Singal. Please sit down, sit down.
Thank you, sir.
Would you give a self-introduction?
Sir, I'm Divyanshu Singal. I hail from Sriganganagar district of Rajasthan. I did my schooling from PSF Senior Secondary School, Sriganganagar. Then I pursued graduation and post-graduation in mathematics from Hindu College, University of Delhi.
What are you doing now?
So now I'm preparing for this examination only, sir.
You didn't do any job?
No, sir.
Okay.
This is your first attempt?
Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, correct.
Okay. Okay, the usual question, why do you want to join the IAS?
Ma'am, I think, ma'am, this service is an excellent career option. Ma'am, I think, ma'am, this option gives me the best opportunity to utilize my abilities and potential towards nation building. And it's a lifelong learning process where I also get to develop myself as well as the society.
Okay. And what do you feel are your potentialities which you feel you can contribute towards nation building?
Ma'am, my first potential that I see in myself is about that I'm a quick learner. I can easily adapt to any situation and take decisions accordingly as to what is required of me. I can deliver that.
What are your weaknesses?
Ma'am, my biggest weakness is I'm a bit of procrastinator, ma'am. And I am indeed working on it.
Isn't that a contradiction to what you just said earlier, that you are quick at learning and now you're saying you take long to decide?
No, ma'am,
It's a contradiction in terms, I feel.
Ma'am, I just mean that, like, I know I can and I have been able to. It's just that I sometimes procrastinate, ma'am.
Okay.
So tell me, what do you think are the qualities of that are required for a good public servant, or for someone who takes a career in the civil services?
Ma'am, the first and foremost quality that I would think is honesty and empathy. Ma'am, because, ma'am, the government has training programs where the person gets to know how to administer and how to take decisions. But if the person is honest and willing to empathize with the needy, then he would better utilize the powers and the authority entrusted with him.
And any other qualities you can think of?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. Ma'am, the person needs to be a good leader so that he can keep the people under him motivated. And
people under him motivated?
Yes, ma'am, the workforce, the employees, and the part of administration.
How would you motivate them?
Ma'am, I think, ma'am, like, everybody wishes to, like, if anybody wishes to contribute their bit towards the working, the responsibilities entrusted to them, they should be able to do that in a rule-based manner. If somebody wants to do something but is prevented from doing it in not a fair manner, then that does demotivate the person.
You come from Rajasthan, and
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
doing Rajasthan as your first choice in the IAS, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You're posted in a district in Rajasthan. What do you think are the key socio-economic challenges that you would face, say, if you're posted in a district as a district magistrate? And how would you deal with them?
Ma'am, the exact problems could differ from district to district, but, ma'am, one of the things...
All right, what are the key socio-economic problems in Rajasthan as a whole? Of course, each district will have its own local issues, but generally...
Ma'am, Rajasthan, ma'am, it all faces water scarcity. Firstly, ma'am, people do not get drinking water on time, sometimes just twice or thrice a month. And then the other issue at social level is that women are generally not treated at par with men. They are considered very inferior. So that also translates to poor upbringing of girls when we compare to boys. So, ma'am, I think, ma'am, these would be my priorities.
Now tell me, when you said that, women that are not treated well, how do you know that they are not? I mean, not apart from, are there any statistics by which you could fortify your statement? Or? Or is
Ma'am.
it just that what you think or what you've seen?
I mean, it's both ways, ma'am.
What is the gender gaps in education and health, for example?
I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm not aware of the
Do you know what
figures.
is an adverse sex ratio?
No, ma'am, I'm
I
sorry.
don't know that. So, do you know if government has any programs to deal with these two specific issues that you have mentioned for Rajasthan? One is the water scarcity, and the other is the whole issue of women not getting their due status. And do you know of any programs at the national as well as at the state level which would help you?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, for water scarcity, ma'am, in the northern part of Rajasthan, state government is trying to tackle using pumps to draw water from Indira Gandhi Canal and the Gang Canal. And ma'am, now we are also working on the Eastern Rajasthan Canal project to fulfill water requirements. And for women, ma'am, the central government's program of Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao is working on generating awareness. So there are multiple local level initiatives being taken by district collectors or even sarpanches to raise awareness among the people so that they treat their girl child at par with the boy child.
Okay, thank you.
Have you ever visited an Anganwadi? You know what an Anganwadi is?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever visited one?
No, ma'am.
What are your interests?
As in, ma'am?
Generally,
Hobbies.
how do
You've
you
written it out,
Yes,
you've
ma'am.
written a number of them.
Ma'am, I like reading about developments in computer technology.
Okay.
Then, ma'am, I like jogging, and ma'am, I like reading fictional novels.
What kind of fiction?
Ma'am, no particular genre. Ma'am.
No. Any particular author you're fond of reading?
Ma'am, I've read George Orwell, the book 1984 and Animal Farm.
Mm-hmm.
And ma'am, right now, ma'am, I'm reading Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Mm-hmm. Heavy reading.
You were also asking, no? Both of you? Shall
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, you told us that you read Animal Farm in 1984 by George Orwell.
Yes, sir.
What's the underlying message of that Greek novel 1984?
Sir, I think, sir, 1984 goes against totalitarian regimes.
Right.
The main underlying message is that no cause, preferably, should be above democracy. That liberties and civil liberties, if they are preserved, we can better grow.
Okay. So related to that, if I give you a statement, it goes like this: that protests are a piece of untamed democracy. How will you explain that? Now that you've read 1984, how would you explain this? I'll repeat myself. Protests are a piece of untamed democracy. Explain that.
Sir, I think that this statement tries to say that if a country is truly democratic, there would be a slight amount of chaos because everybody has different ways of looking at things and perceiving them and different views regarding how we should progress. And certainly, sir, we are a country of 1.3 billion people and we cannot conquer on each and everything. So protests will definitely be there, and a democracy should be untamed only, because if it's tamed, that means it's being controlled. It's not a democracy.
Wonderful. Last question. Reservation for women to the tune of 33% in the Parliament of India has been long pending. What, according to you, have been the impediments to bringing that bill into a law?
So the biggest impediment that I think is that politicians do not perceive women as a standalone vote bank. There are vote banks based on caste, even farmer groups, but women are viewed as an adjunct to man in our society. So politicians do not believe that they need to specifically cater to them. That's why, sir, there is lack of political will to provide them reservation. The other issue is that again related to it only, the patriarchal mindset. So there would not be a support from society as such, and that would not translate to better votes. So I think that's why they're reluctant, sir.
Thank you.
What newspapers do you read?
Ma'am, The Hindu.
Only the Hindu.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
What are the headlines today?
Ma'am,
Did you read the paper today?
yes, ma'am.
No.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm totally unable to recall.
Okay. Now, what are the key issues which are figuring in the papers these days?
Ma'am, one is related to the need of European delegates to the visit by them to J&K,
Okay.
and ma'am, the other one recently was Supreme Court giving a judgment on reservation in promotions,
Mm-hmm.
and
What is the outcome? What is the judgment? I've been a little out of touch.
ma'am, the judgment was that state is not obliged to provide reservation in promotions. It cannot be claimed as a fundamental right.
Only in promotion?
Yes, sir. The judgment related to reservation in promotions.
Not appointments.
I'm sorry, sir.
Read it. You may be right, I don't.
Just make a note of it.
Read what
I'm
the-
sorry because I have not read it in detail.
No,
so
that's
I
what
should
I'm
ask
saying.
also.
You should read it.
Okay.
because it
I
is a
have read
current
it.
issue.
I know what it is, but I want you to read it.
Thank you, sir.
It's very important.
And what about this burning issue of coronavirus? That's a very
Yes,
prominent
ma'am.
thing which is coming up.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, for coronavirus, ma'am, I think, ma'am, we need to supplement our health systems so that we can tackle the issue better. Ma'am, China, which is a much greater economic power than us, is struggling to deal with the outbreak of virus and has seen close to 1,000 deaths. So, ma'am,
More
that's-
than 1,000 now. And but which state in India has got a good model for tackling this problem?
I think, ma'am, Kerala.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Good. Yeah.
You have mentioned that you have learning about the development in computer technologies. What are the 3 latest technologies?
well, sir, the biggest technology, sir, of late is quantum supremacy, sir, which Google has recently developed.
Next.
And, sir, the other are, sir, the regular improvements in artificial intelligence. And, sir, now we are in next stage of machine learning, sir, where we are going through the deep learning algorithm, sir, where we are emulating neural networks of humans' brain into the machines.
And next, third one.
So third is, the Microsoft is working on something called Project Silica, where, sir, it aims to store data on glass. So, sir, that can revolutionize how we store, and, sir, it is expected to have good impact on environment because its shelf life is supposed to be close to 10,000 years. So that would tackle the issue of waste as well, sir.
How can we tackle that problem of e-waste? Any initiatives of the government?
Sir, as for government initiatives, sir, recently the Metals and Mineral Trading Corporation has got into a joint venture with Mahindra Tech Limited to recycle e-waste.
Okay, that's one.
Yes, sir. And, sir, the government has also tried to introduce through the rules the concept called extended producer responsibility. But, sir,
That comes under some specific rules, right?
yes, sir.
Okay.
So the e-waste handling and management rules, 2011.
There has been a recent amendment in that particular rule. Are you aware of?
Sir, there has been an amendment in 2016, sir, but, sir, I'm not aware of the amendment's contents.
It's okay. Ma'am asked you a question about the recent things in the newspaper. I think today also they have covered the decrease in the industrial production. IIP figure has come
Yes,
down.
sir,
But
contraction.
according to you, are the reason that the manufacturing sector is facing a lot of problems?
Sir, I think the prime underlying reason would be demand. Because, sir,
Would be what?
demand, sir,
Demand, okay.
consumption demand, sir. Because, sir, there has been an overall decline. And, sir, the other issue which I think is, sir, that people are somewhat also reluctant to spend. It's not just that they do not. There has been a.
Why so?
Sir, one of the issues that I have personally seen, sir, talking to a number of business people in my area, is that, sir, they feel that if they take any steps, the tax departments would coerce them into paying taxes. So, sir, they are a bit reluctant towards
You're trying
spending.
to say that they are not paying the taxes.
So that could also be one reason, sir.
Okay. How can we stop it then?
I think, sir, the government has recognized this issue, and that's
Don't
why.
you think as a citizen of India, it is also your responsibility. If you know the names of all these businessmen, and then if you think that, is there any scheme of the government to incentivize individuals to tell the name or to come up with the name? that if somebody is not paying any taxes and all, is there any such scheme by the central government?
I'm sorry, sir, I'm not aware of such a scheme.
One last question I want to ask you. You had done your schooling from BSF Senior Secondary School. How these paramilitary forces are different from the Indian military?
So the primary responsibility of the paramilitary forces is, sir, to guard the borders, sir. Sir, military is more trained to undertake combat roles when there is a war in general, sir. So I think that is the basic.
If they are posted at the border areas, why we send paramilitary forces in the Naxal areas?
So I think, sir, it's because they are trained for some specific purposes, the specific operations that they are assigned to them. So, like even Indian Army undertakes border guarding operations in Jammu Kashmir, but paramilitary forces are specifically designed to undertake specific operations.
What is Sri Ganganagar famous for? Any particular?
Ma'am, as for tourism points in general, ma'am, there aren't any special tourism points. But ma'am, Ganganagar is known as the grain basket of Rajasthan.
Okay.
Because of good agricultural production.
What are the products, agricultural products?
Ma'am, mainly wheat and rice.
Okay. Agriculture is the mainstay.
Yes, ma'am. Because it's
No
close.
industry, no industry.
Ma'am, industries are there, ma'am. Industries are there, ma'am, but it's not a specific hub of particular industries. There are many. For example, ma'am, the region produces and exports guar, which is used for shell oil extraction in USA.
Mm-hmm.
But ma'am, it's not a specific industrial hub.
Okay. You said,
Go ahead.
No, you said that in Rajasthan, one of the main issues is about gender disparity.
Yes, ma'am.
You have sisters?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. Cousins?
Yes, ma'am.
Girl cousins?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you feel is the difference in the treatment of the girls and the boys within the family?
Ma'am, in my family, ma'am, I was privileged to that there was lesser of discrimination as compared to in general.
Mm-hmm.
But ma'am, there was certainly, ma'am, the boys had more freedom, but the girls had more privileges.
Like what
As in-
privileges, please
As in, ma'am,
specify?
like if I had something demand from my parents or a request, ma'am, it could be declined.
Mhm.
As for like if I want to have something, but ma'am, if it were a female cousin of mine, ma'am, it would never be.
Okay. Lucky them. Good.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm done.
Now, you see, you please bear in mind that this personality test or interview or whatever it is to assess your suitability to hold a position in the civil service. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Not to test your knowledge on mathematics or physics or chemistry. You have already done that.
Yes,
You have cleared a written examination. There your knowledge of the subject in which you are good, that has been tested. So please bear in mind that what is sought to be assessed is how suitable you are to hold a position in the civil service. So tell us, what do you think are the good attributes of a proper civil servant?
Sir, as I said earlier, sir, the first and foremost attributes that I believe are, sir, honesty and empathy. After that,
Honesty and
empathy.
empathy.
Yes, sir.
Okay. By empathy, what do you mean?
Sir, empathy, I mean, sir, that the person should be able to understand the feelings or the sufferings of the other person actively, sir.
Very good.
The person should be able to relate with them.
Yes.
Because, sir,
Yeah, that's fine. You said it and you said it well.
Thank you,
What
sir.
are the other attributes?
Sir,
You had mentioned two when I asked
Yes,
you.
yes,
so
ma'am.
Chairman is asking about others, apart from empathy.
So the other would be, sir, dedication towards what one is working. Then, sir, I would say, sir, responsibility for one's action, not just accountability, so that
What do you distinguish between the two?
Yes, sir. So accountability is more of a formal notion. So there is a defined mechanism, there is a senior subordinate relationship, and so responsibility is something which is self-imposed. So I think, sir, a civil servant should be.
Yeah, okay, you said it. Next.
Yes, sir. And sir, I'm sorry, sir, I'm not just right now able to think of any other.
But we take it as a mentoring also, not just to, to assess your capabilities. See, you should have an open mind as a civil servant. If you ask me, like empathy, that's the most important quality of a civil servant, particularly for an IAS officer, because he is not a master of any particular subject.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
he will be confronted with many kinds of problems about which he may not have any knowledge. So, first of all, you should be very, very responsive, and you should have an open mind. You should not approach any subject or any matter with any preconceived ideas.
Thank you, sir.
And I also feel that you must have much more data about your home state. You didn't know the.
We'll come to that.
Oh, sorry, sir.
Come to that. We'll come to that.
Oh, I thought you done.
No, we'll come to, we'll, later on, all of us will tell you what we feel, that you should be a little more prepared. But from the point of view of this openness, to my mind, that's a very important quality. And your accessibility, okay?
Yes, sir.
You may be preoccupied with many things at the same time, particularly if you are in a district, there may be a law and order problem, there may be a problem of some immediate, provocation from something or the other. But if people want to meet you, if people want to talk to you, you should give them time. You should be available. If I may tell you, if you are in a district 24 hours, there should be no problem about that. That the people expect of you. They come to you in the hope that you will be able to redress their grievance. And even if you are not in a position, you try and advise. You see, the problem may relate to some other department. You are not directly concerned with that. But then, instead of telling them, say that, no, I am not bothered. So you advise them to the best of your knowledge, and if possible, establish a contact for him with the person concerned. That will be extremely helpful. And in many states, in many districts, there is a specific setup to listen to the grievances of the people and to redress these grievances. Okay, these are some of the attributes that you should be extremely careful about. And as you go, not only go higher and higher, even at the district level, your understanding with the colleagues of yours,
Yes, sir.
you have to depend upon the willing cooperation of a large number of colleagues to be a success as an IAS officer, whether it is later on in the secretariat or earlier in the field. You have to generate a certain amount of understanding, cooperation among your colleagues. You are not to show that, look, you did this, you did that. Better make it appear that it is something which is a
Teamwork.
result of our team. It's
Teamwork.
extremely important. That's
You have to
the
be a
right word.
good, not only I won't say leader, but you should generate the kind of atmosphere where you build up a good team, so that you can work as a strong team.
You are
You
basically.
can't achieve anything by yourself. Maybe you have the right ideas,
That's right.
but for implementation, you need a whole team to help you
Yes,
out.
ma'am.
Most of the time, the role is that of a coordinator, and like the conductor of an orchestra. There are too many players. You are not the one, and you are. But to ensure that there is no disharmony, whether you are a chief secretary or a cabinet secretary, to a lesser extent in the district, basic role is that of a coordinator. So keep these things in mind, and when you answer your questions, have this. And what I could observe from what you told, the other two honorable members here, you should be a little more, have a little more in-depth knowledge about gender issues. Particularly, you are coming from Rajasthan. Rajasthan is, fairly notorious for the gender-related matters. And then current developments. You are good at it. You answer a question about what happened yesterday, today, etc. But be up to date on that. And between now and the time of the interview, make it a point to read at least a couple of newspapers. What newspapers do you read now?
So the Hindu only, sir.
Pardon me?
So the Hindu.
the Hindu.
Yes, sir.
You try and read an economic paper,
Correct, sir.
Economic Times or Business Standard or Financial Express, something like that. That will give you more news on the economic front. And again, because the budget is a recent thing that happened, you be a little more clear about the provisions in the budget and
highlights. The highlights.
the main thrust of the budget. The budget is in the context of the economic difficulties we are facing, isn't it?
Yes.
Read up on that. You
Correct.
see the so-called economic slowdown, and but now, in addition to the slowdown, there is a rise in prices also. So, if there is an economist or somebody who is interested in these economic issues, they are very, very important. And again, we didn't talk about environmental issues, but they're extremely important. Climate change, what's happening in that area, what is the state of play globally, after the Paris Conference and subsequent United Nations Framework Convention on Climate. They have been meeting annually. The last one was in Madrid or something. Anyway, read up on that. Then security-related matters. The perception that you have about the security of India in relation to its neighborhood, in relation to big power, equations, etc., etc. So be little more. Your interview is coming on the
8th February, sir.
28th February. So a few days, and make use of the time most effectively to keep yourself up to date.
Yes.
Want to advise him something?
Are you clear about what happened in the Amazon and in Australia recently?
Yes, ma'am. The fires in forests. And
It's a
Australia
reflection of
bushfire.
your environmental problems, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So just read up a little more on climate change. And also on the economic front, I suggest you read up what are the outcome of the Davos Economic Forum, because that took place very recently. Somebody might just ask you something on that.
Okay, ma'am.
But about your own district, you need to have all your facts straight off.
You'll have a handbook on Rajasthan and the district and all that. No? That is the easiest. The state governments bring out a handbook on their state, and some states have district-wise handbooks. That will give you all the data, all the statistics.
Pick it up from the district office, I'm sure they'd be happy.
They're not
All
problems.
right, ma'am.
And Rajasthan is known for, it started with this, the gender problem was the sati, that was in Rajasthan.
Yes, ma'am.
So somebody might just want to know
I
more
asked
about
him.
it.
He didn't
Yeah.
put notice.
Yeah, about sati.
That's all I wanted to
No,
tell you.
about sati particularly.
Now read up these government schemes
There
which are
are
aimed
other
at
schemes also apart from
large
Beti
numbers.
Bachao. There are other schemes also. So just check out what are the new schemes
All
for
right,
the
ma'am.
girl child,
I will. Yes, ma'am.
for women empowerment and for the girl child.
And education, health. These are other two sectors of importance for generally for the people. Then infrastructure, read about Swachh Bharat. So these are things which are all interrelated. They're nothing which is independent of the others. They're all integrated. Okay.
Another issue which I think you should be a little aware of is the disability sector, because the government for the last 5-6 years has been paying a lot of attention to the differently abled. They keep changing the nomenclature also for the handicapped. Sometimes they call them disabled, sometimes they call them handicapped.
Now it is
it's
differently
able, Divyang.
I think it
So
is
just read up what are the schemes for them also, because they have a separate department now for disability, and the center is also in the states. So there are regular programs which they have introduced for the disabled.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good.
Differently abled.
You want to tell him anything?
I'll suggest in one-to-one. I have a long list.
Yeah, you can do it on a one-to-one because we
Yes,
have
ma'am.
a
That's what I'm
line
trying to
issue
answer.
also.
Very
So
good.
I list
Thank
down
you.
all the major points.
Thanks.
So just spend the next few days reading up
All right.
and don't panic. You'll
Okay.
be fine.
Okay.
Best of luck.
Thank you.